grant timeline. Again, in late winter, early spring, actually I haven't mentioned this, we will hold an onboarding meeting for new grantees. We used to do this over a webinar and then hold an action planning meeting. However, for our FY19 grantees for child nutrition grants, we will hold a physical meeting. And again, we'll work with our grantees' schedules to identify a time and a location that works best. But it is our hope and goal to have all of the grant cohort together with their coaches and our support service providers. February 6, 2019 is the grant award ceremony at the Vermont State House. So if you are a Farm to School Child Nutrition grantee, you're required to send at least one representative to that ceremony. For the spring of 2019, you should plan on working on the curriculum component of the grant program, the school garden technical assistance workshop component of the program, the child nutrition program component, as well as the curriculum component, which for some reason isn't listed here. I apologize. And between February of 2019 and November of 2020 is when you'll have on and off-site technical assistance or coaching from your coach. So here are some basic tips for all grant writers, in particular the child nutrition grantees. We definitely recommend that, number one, you read the request for applications very carefully, and you read the frequently asked questions on our website. Those FAQs answer a lot of questions that we get throughout the years, many or most of which I have addressed in this webinar. This year's Farm to School Child Nutrition Program grant is heavily team-based, so focus on the quality and commitment of your team and how they're going to engage with support services and coaching. Make sure you're being realistic about what you can accomplish. It's easy to get caught up in their dreams, but it's important to be grounded in what can actually be executed so that you and your community don't get disappointed. Have your whole team review your application to be sure you answered all the questions and they're all fully aware of the application that was submitted. We hate to see anyone in a school community that's surprised by the level of commitment that a school is signing up for if they're awarded a grant. And also think about who you might collaborate with on your application. Maybe there are multiple early care providers or schools that you can apply for in your application. Maybe you can reach out to some folks that you hadn't thought about before to collaborate on your application in terms of building a team. Have you thought about your local FFA chapter? Have you thought about the Grange? Have you involved maybe even your municipal planning organization or planning and zoning office? Have you reached out to your town clerk or mayor? Have you talked to school board members? There are lots of people who can be engaged in these projects, and sometimes it just takes reaching out. Do you have an action plan already? If you do, you can submit it with your application, and if you don't, that's okay. If you're granted, again, you'll work with your coach. And your action plan that you do submit with your application will only help our review team understand your school climate better. But you're not required to submit an action plan. And if you do have an action plan, we will ask that you work with your coach to really make sure that action plan makes sense and is fitting the needs of your school in a realistic way. And when addressing sustainability, you should really identify obstacles for engaging partners and ensure that you're aligning with your wellness initiatives as well. If you can identify those obstacles ahead of time, that really does demonstrate that you understand your community and can help you achieve solutions to get around those obstacles. And your wellness initiative, so your school wellness policy, etc., is a great way of engaging farm to school in your school community. For farm to school child nutrition grantees or applicants, be mindful on how to permanently increase capacity for serving local food and integrating farm to school and early care into the everyday program activities at your school or early care provider. This program really is about systemic change and institutionalizing farm to school and early care into those we grant. And child nutrition applicants should also demonstrate a strong commitment to the 3 C's and be committed to planning for sustainably embedding a farm to school program in the long term so that it is an expected part of your early care program or school's culture. And make sure that you plan for staff overturn so that if 1 to 2 people on your team leave, there is adequate support to keep the program and project on track. We need to know that there is a plan in place to deal with overturn. Schools and providers can really have quite a bit of overturn. In the last 5 years I've been managing this program, schools have seen an incredible amount of change, and that's okay as long as you have a plan to deal with that change. Oh, and make sure that you have leadership buy-in and your full team is really supportive of this grant application. Superintendent doesn't necessarily need to be at every meeting, but it is important that they're supportive, and when they're tapped, they are there at the table to have a conversation. And for principals, as we know, principals are oftentimes the central point for all schools. So again, having their buy-in is important. They don't necessarily need to be at every single meeting, but they are a really important part of the community. So it is important to demonstrate buy-in. And if they can make it to all of the meetings, fantastic. So I just wanted to put a plug in for the Vermont Farm to School Network. I am a part of this network, and so are many of my partners. It consists of many service providers, nonprofit partners, teachers, etc. If you're not signed up to the listserv already, go to the Vermont Farm to School Network, and you can just Google their listserv and sign up for it. Really helpful emails come through this listserv, and it also provides an opportunity for dialogue and reaching out to partners if there are needs and information to share. It's free to sign up for the listserv, and it can be found again on the Vermont Farm to School Vermont Farm to School Network website. The Vermont Farm to School Network website is also full of lots of useful information and resources, so I definitely recommend you do check it out if you are applying and you're not already using it as a tool. And finally, our website. This is the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets Farm to School website. There is so much on our website to help with your grant application, so your farm to school program. When you form a farm to school team and working on your grant application, you might want to reach out again to a member of the Vermont Farm to School Network in your area and your community. You can find out relevant contacts in your area on a list on our Farm to School website at the Agency of Ag under Farm to School Support section. There you'll find all of the regional and statewide and national supports that are available to support your program, including other partners like New England Dairy and Food Council, who fund the Fuel Up to Play 60 program and also provide a lot of great farm to school resources. We also have a lot of relevant reports, including those on school milk and aligning your farm to school program with your wellness policy, and more information about our grant program, and a lot of really great videos. And if you haven't checked out the Vermont Agency of Agriculture Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram account, please do. There's lots of really fun stuff and a lot of informational webinars and videos that can help you in any of your farm to school community needs. So finally, we are at the question and answer period. We have about 15 minutes for this. We might not need all of it. I have put some contact information for useful partners for your grants. My contact information is at the top. Again, Ali Zaparo, Vermont Agency of Ag. And then I put 2 key contacts for Vermont Feed. Cynthia Green is our #1 support person for our early care work and is the main lead in the technical assistance and workshops that she is putting on throughout the state to build a farm to early care network. And then below that is Abby Nelson from NOFA Vermont. Abby Nelson is the NOFA side of Vermont Feed as far as technical assistance goes with our grant program. Abby Nelson is also the person who conducts all of the procurement support services for our child nutrition grantees. And I didn't include them, but other contacts that are helpful would be Katie Davis at Hunger Free Vermont. She's the main contact person for the child nutrition viability support services component of our grant program. And Libby Weiland from Vermont Community Garden Network. She's in charge of conducting, planning, promoting, and executing our garden workshops as well. So at this time, I'd like to open it up to any questions that folks might still have. And again, if you can't think of any questions right now and something comes up, you can always email it through our farm to school email portal at agr.farmtoschool@vermont.gov, or you can always email me and I can hopefully answer your question. So we have one question. This is a really great question that's actually addressed in our FAQs. So it's about someone who has 2 schools in an SU that are interested in applying, but the 3rd SU in the SU is not interested. The question is, should they apply as a supervisory union or each school apply independently? I get this question a lot. And I did address it in the frequently asked questions section of the RFP, and it's also located on our website. But in short, I can't make any recommendations about whether or not a school should apply as an individual school or it should be a consortium or an SU. It's really circumstantial and really dependent on many factors at the individual level. So the other consideration to think about is, that the answer to that question really is dependent on the quality of applications that we receive. So our recommendation always is, go with the plan that will, lead to the strongest team and the most successful and sustaining, project possible. So, if you do have a school that is not as interested, you might want to ask yourself if that would, lead to the demonstration of a really strong team in your plan. So, again, I can't make any particular recommendations. It's dependent on a lot of factors, and each circumstance is different. And also, we don't know the quality or the number of applications that we'll receive. So my recommendation always is to focus on the team and really think about what scenario would lead to the strongest team and the most successful sustaining program. And I don't have any other questions. I'll leave it for a couple of seconds to see if there are any other questions. And again, thank you so much for participating. We apologize for any inconvenience.